The city of Detroit filed for the largest municipal bankruptcy in history, and yet this is happening against a very odd backdrop. U.S. markets are at all-time highs. Hello, I'm David Nelson. Welcome to Newsmax. So is the economy on the mend, or is Detroit a harbinger of things to come? Joining us to share his insight is the Wall Street Journal's Stephen Moore. Steve is the senior economics writer for the Journal's editorial board. He's also author of the book, Who's the Fairest of Them All? The Truth About Taxes and Opportunity in America. Stephen, welcome. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, Steve, we get a very mixed message here. On the one hand, we have the tragedy in Detroit, a city that's been decimated over the last few decades, and yet markets are at all-time highs. We get two images here. Which image is giving us a real picture of the American economy?
I think they both are, actually. I think that, first of all, let's talk about Detroit for a minute. I mean, Detroit is in the dire circumstances that it is right now in Chapter 11 bankruptcy, because this is a city that for 30 to 40 years has been a playground for liberalism. And this has been the problem in almost all major urban cities in America. And it's not just Detroit that's in trouble. You've probably got 10 or 15 major cities that are in severe economic distress right now because of the cascade of liberal policies that have been put in place in these inner cities, the vast welfare state, the massive amounts of pensions that are paid out to government employees, the fact that you've got whole cities where fathers are almost non-existent. So it's a whole confluence of factors that have really destroyed America's iconic cities. And by the way, Detroit, when you think about it, you know, for almost 100 years has been the symbol of America's industrial might. And it's such a, as you said, you used the word tragedy, and this is a tragedy what's happened in Detroit, but I would make the case that this is what happens when you let liberalism run wild.
Detroit is, currently $18 billion in debt, 10 of which is owed to the city pension plans. 40,000 buildings are empty, and unemployment is hitting 16%. If this bankruptcy works, Steve, and at some point in the future, as Kevin Orr says he will be able to do it, and they can go back to the capital markets, isn't that a green light for the rest of these cities that you're mentioning to file for bankruptcy as well?
Well, bankruptcy is not such a bad option for some of these cities. I mean, they have undertaken so much debt, they have so much legacy costs in these pensions that for some major cities, I don't really see any other way out. I mean, it's clear that Detroit had no other options. What you do under bankruptcy, and this is what households do and businesses do when they file for bankruptcy, is they reorganize. They're able to, renegotiate the contracts that they have that they can't pay. And by the way, the municipal bondholders in Detroit are going to take a haircut, if not a crew cut here. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who work for the city for 25, 30, 35 years are also not going to get the full pensions they were promised. Now, this is the result of politicians never standing up to the unions. And unfortunately, the victims here are the workers who were counting on these pensions. Now, let's face it, these pensions that they were promised are on balance twice as high as the pensions the private sector workers get. So giving them a haircut is not, a huge injustice by any means. But I do think, look, if Detroit had better management, better governance, there's no reason that Detroit could not make a comeback. It's never going to be a city of 2 million people like it was 30 or 40 years ago, but I do believe there's a real future for American cities if they start to shed the liberal policies that have destroyed them.
Steve, you mentioned the municipal bond market, and as a strategist, I want to go there for a second because I found this surprising. A Michigan municipality, I believe it's Wyoming, Michigan, was actually able to go to the capital markets just recently, raised debt at a very attractive rate, 4%. They were actually budgeting for 4.25%. Seems like Wall Street has a very short memory.
Yeah, I think the gig is up here for the municipal bond market. I think that people buy municipal bonds and think that they're buying a risk-free asset. You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. These are not risk-free assets, and that's really the lesson of Detroit. Now, look, this is all going to be in court for months, if not years, before we find out, who takes the hit here. But somebody's going to take the hit. There is absolutely no question about that. And I don't think the bondholders are going to be held whole. I think they were going to only get, we don't know, 75 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar, maybe less than that. And this is a warning to people who own municipal bonds that these are not risk-free investments, that they carry with them political risk, and you better start paying attention to these unfunded pensions when you buy the debts of these cities and municipalities, because if they have huge unfunded pensions, you may not get your money back.
Like you say, Steve, there's always a winner and a loser. Let me take you to the markets for a second, because how this translates. We're right in the middle of earnings season right now. We're kind of getting a mixed report card, a fair number of earnings beats. But one of the things I noticed is that revenue seems a bit challenged. We're not beating, at least on the top line. Profit margins pretty close to all-time highs. How long are corporations going to be able to continue to keep banging out these kind of numbers if revenue growth isn't there?
I look at balance sheets of American corporations, and I just see a beautiful picture. I mean, American businesses, were not in great shape in 2005 and 6 and 7 when they took on enormous debt. They became flabby. They became inefficient. They were over-leveraged. And one of the virtues of this recession, if I can use that word virtue, is that it has a kind of cathartic effect. Businesses got back down to the business of becoming lean and efficient. They deleveraged, and now you look at them, and the way I put it is American companies, more than companies anywhere else in the rest of the world, are lean, mean fighting machines, and I think they are the best-run companies in the world. So I'm a big believer in American companies right now. The only thing that's really been holding them back for the last few years is government policies that have really impeded growth. The higher tax rates are a very big negative. The Obama regulatory assault, the idiocy of Obamacare, the massive stimulus bill, which is just an enormous new debt on the back of the American economy. But, the good news is that Barack Obama, in his second term, is a lame duck already. I mean, he's in the first year of a second term, and in a lot of ways, he's a lame duck. He can't get anything done. And the way I put it is the less that Washington does now, the better it is for the U.S. economy. And so I think, there are reasons to be bullish, notwithstanding the fact that some of these companies don't have the revenues, as you said, that you might want to see.
We're going to have to leave it there, Stephen. We're out of time, but thank you so much for your valuable insight.
Thank you. Love what you do at Newsmax.
We've been talking with the Wall Street Journal's Stephen Moore. Thanks for joining. I'm David Nelson for Newsmax.